In October 2024, researchers at Apple released a study that threatened to destroy the entire AI industry. They called it GSM-Symbolic. The premise was simple and terrifying. They claimed that large language models do not actually reason. They claimed these models are just stochastic parrots mimicking intelligence without understanding it. To prove this, they took standard math problems that models like GPT-4 and Claude could solve easily. And they changed the names. They changed Sophie to Alice. They changed the numbers from 5 to 7. And the models collapsed. The accuracy dropped by over 30% just because the names changed. The media went into a frenzy. Headlines everywhere screamed that AI was a lie. They said, the bubble has popped. They said, it's just pattern matching. And for 6 months, that was the accepted truth. But then in June 2025, a researcher named Lawsen from Open Philanthropy found something that everyone else had missed. He looked at the logs, and he realized that Apple hadn't measured the AI's intelligence. They had measured its lung capacity. This is the story of the token budget paradox. It is the most critical misunderstanding in modern computer science. And to understand it, you have to understand how an AI actually thinks. We tend to personify these models. We imagine a brain in a jar thinking thoughts. But an LLM does not have a brain. It has a context window and a token limit. It does not think in silence. It thinks in tokens. Every single word it generates is a unit of compute. When you ask a human to solve a complex logic puzzle like the Tower of Hanoi, they stop talking. They sit quietly. They simulate the moves in their head. They plan, and then they give you the answer. But an AI cannot be silent. For an AI, silence is death. If it is not generating tokens, it is not thinking. Its inner monologue is actually the text it generates before it gives you the final answer. This is called chain of thought reasoning. And this is where Apple made their fatal mistake. When they ran their viral study, they imposed a strict token budget on the models. They put a cap on how many words the model could generate. They effectively told the AI, solve this complex physics problem, but you only have 10 words to do it. Imagine asking Einstein to solve the theory of relativity, but forbidding him from using scratch paper. He would fail, not because he is stupid, but because he ran out of space. Lawsen discovered the smoking gun in the output logs of Claude 3.7. In the middle of a complex reasoning task, the model didn't hallucinate. It didn't fail to understand the math. It explicitly wrote the following sentence. The pattern continues, but I will stop here to save tokens. This is a chilling realization. The model knew the answer. It was effectively cut off mid-sentence by the researcher's own constraints. Apple counted this as a reasoning failure. They marked it as a 0. But it wasn't a reasoning failure. It was a budget failure. This brings us to a new biological mechanism discovered in 2025 called token elasticity. This was published in a landmark paper at the ACL conference. The researchers found a paradox. You might think that if you give an AI a short token limit, it would try to be concise. You would think it would summarize. But the opposite happens. When a model realizes it is running out of budget, it panics. It enters a state of cognitive thrashing. Instead of solving the problem, it starts generating tokens, explaining why it can't solve the problem. It apologizes. It hallucinates shortcuts. It tries to guess the answer. The paper showed that when you drop the token budget below a certain threshold, the model doesn't just get cut off. Its reasoning capability degrades exponentially. It gets stupider. It is like holding someone's head underwater and asking them to recite the alphabet. They aren't failing the test because they don't know the letters. They are failing because they are drowning. So what happens when we remove the straitjacket? Alex Lawsen reran the famous GSM-Symbolic tests. But this time, he gave the models an infinite token budget. He let them breathe. The results were shocking. The reasoning gap disappeared. The models that supposedly couldn't handle a name change suddenly solved the problems perfectly. The collapse that Apple hyped up wasn't real. It was an artifact of the testing methodology. A great example of this is the Tower of Hanoi puzzle. This is a game where you have to move discs between rods without placing a larger disc on a smaller one. It requires deep planning. You have to think 10 steps ahead. In the original study, the models failed miserably. But Lawson showed that to solve a 10-step Tower of Hanoi problem, the model needs to generate about 2,000 tokens of planning text. It needs to simulate the moves. If I move disk A to rod B, then disk C is blocked. It has to write this down to see it. Apple had capped the output far below that requirement. They demanded the answer without the work. So why does this matter to you? Why is this technical paradox important? Because it exposes the dirty secret of the AI industry. Intelligence is expensive. Generating reasoning tokens costs money. Every time Claude or GPT-4 thinks about your problem for 30 seconds, it is burning electricity and GPU time. The AI companies have a financial incentive to limit the token budget. They want the models to be concise. They want them to answer quickly and cheaply. So they train them to be lazy. They use reinforcement learning to punish the models for being too verbose. They are literally lobotomizing their own creations to save on server costs. When you use a chatbot and it gives you a dumb, wrong answer, it is often not because the model is stupid. It is because the model is holding its breath. It is trying to rush to the answer to save a fraction of a cent. The Apple study was dangerous because it validated this laziness. It told the world, don't bother letting the AI think it can't reason anyway. But the token paradox proves the opposite. We have not hit the ceiling of AI intelligence. We have only hit the ceiling of our own willingness to pay for it. We are judging a supercomputer by its ability to tweet. And that is a fundamental category error. As we move into the era of agentic AI models that take actions on your behalf, this distinction becomes life or death. If you ask an AI to trade stocks or diagnose a medical scan, you do not want it to save tokens. You want it to burn as much compute as it needs to get the right answer. We need to stop asking, can AI think? And start asking, are we letting it? The next time you see a headline claiming AI has hit a wall, ask yourself one question. Did it hit a wall? Or did it just run out of breath?